Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode, oh shit, was it 48?
I think it's 49.
49. Okay, episode 49 of the Pregame Network podcast. This is Dan, and joined again by my bestest pal, Anthony.
Hello.
And just like last week, we're just going to talk about more video games and stuffs. So,
Yes.
I'm just gonna jump right into it because I actually I this is probably gonna be my most like look but I've been looking forward to like the what we've been playing section the most this week just
hmm
for a couple different reasons. I have finally sunk my teeth into a new game, into a new shooter, and I
Yes.
yeah, I just the dude the finals has just got its hooks in me bad. Um, and like I that's what I've been maining over the past week. I actually haven't really touched Mass Effect, um, because I've just been playing the finals. Like I,
Mhm.
much like Mass Effect 2, I'm just taking my time with 3, and like I'm in no
Yeah.
rush to beat it, and I'm like halfway. I'm almost like not at the point of no return, but like I'm pretty sure I am just finishing up Act 1. Like I'm at the point where I have to go to Tuchanka and cure the genophage and like
Ah,
make the
yes.
decision between Mordin and Rex. So I'm like
Yes.
going around and doing everything that I possibly can to get my Paragon rating high enough so that I can keep both of them alive. Because I want the best ending in Mass Effect 3 also. Or no, let me rephrase that. I want the synthesize ending, right? That's what it was called when they fuse the
Synthesis, yeah.
yeah, synthesis, when they fuse the organics and the artificial together. So I'm just taking my time with Mass Effect 3, but I have been like obsessed with the finals lately. And I finally unlocked all three new weapons. Now I'm moving on to like the different abilities for the different classes. My only gripe with the game is how they handle the currency that you need to unlock stuff. The most you can that I've gotten from a single game was like 120 or 130 VR. I don't know what VR stands for, but that's just what they call it.
hmm
Um, and everything in the game, every ability, every weapon, every gadget, or whatever, it all costs this currency, and you only get a maximum. The average is like 110 per game. Like
Okay.
that's seems to be the average payout for like a normal length game. And from what I can tell, it's all about time spent in like in game. So like if you join a match in progress, you're probably only going to get 50 or 60,
hmm
sometimes 80. But if you play out the whole match from beginning to end, and it's more than I would say 8 minutes maybe,
hmm
they're going to give you 110. Like that's the only gripe that I have with this game is that the way that you unlock stuff is just completely arbitrary, and it just
hmm
depends on how long you play the game, which is like, it's whatever. But um, and I know it's free to play and everything, and you cannot buy this currency, which is nice, but um, yeah, it's like the only thing that I have a complaint over. I've gotten really good with the heavy. I've been pretty good with medium, but light is just like he has so little health that I feel like I just get fucking melted no matter what I go up against. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So the finals has been a really big one for me, and like everything on my YouTube algorithm now is like, oh, the finals is the most underrated game of the past 10 years, or it's like uh the best shooter to come out since I don't know, like Battlefield 3 or something like that. And while I don't agree with like some of those claims, I do think it is a very underrated game, and I think it's a shame that it's not more widely talked about. Although I will say the finals did just hit Game Pass like yesterday or the day before or something like that. Um, so even though it's a free to play game, I guess like it being on Game Pass is it just appeals to a wider audience at this point.
hmm
Um, so yeah, Finals very, very good. I've been playing a ton of it. I really, really like it. And as far as my Steam playtime goes, it is creeping up there like next to Remnant and Space Marine. compared to like
Oh,
hours played.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
you've been playing a ton of it, and it's been one of the
yeah.
most. It's been one of the things that you've spoken the most about. Like I'm sitting here,
Yeah.
I'm going about my business. I look to my right. You're like basically virtually tackling Joe because you noticed it was on his like his recent play, and you're like, hey, I see you playing
Yeah,
the finals there, buddy. Right in the middle of
yeah,
the week. I'm like, oh shit.
yeah. Well, like I am, as you know, as somebody who is close to me, like my genre of choice for video games is has pretty much always been first person shooters. Like that's just
Yeah.
kind of my bread and butter.
Hmm.
So when I stumble upon a game or an FPS that is as competent and well put together as the finals is, and it's like really not well known, relatively speaking, I I really get into it. And like, Destiny has been my go-to for like the past, I would say 7 years if I'm being like modest. Um, but it's I've tapped out of the PvP of Destiny like a while ago.
I
It's just
mean,
not for me anymore. It's too
I've
much. I can't handle it. But
I've never seen it like I talked to you, I talked to a few other people, from you, Luke, my brother, to people I know that have played Destiny. Nobody has ever said anything good about the Destiny multiplayer, and I don't know why people just slam their hands
it's
against it.
so just well, for one, it's the loot. Like sometimes they'll throw a gun into the PvP loot pool that is
Mhm.
just objectively one of the best guns in the game. Like from a PvP and a PvE standpoint, time to kill, like crowd control, whatever, like DPS. Sometimes they'll throw a gun in there and like you just have to have it in order to compete at a high level, even if you're
Mhm.
just doing like master level raids or something. So like that is one example that I could give you, but I don't know why, like everything that Bungie has tried to do for the Crucible has just not landed. And it's my personal opinion that they've power crept the game into such a state that like you can take all your shit with you from like your best PvE build into the Crucible, and if it's good enough or like if it's built the right way, you're just gonna shit all over the whole lobby. And I've just reached a point where I just can't do it anymore. I haven't played PvP in, I would say I'm coming up on at least a year, and that's a very long time for me because I grew up on shooters. I grew up on multiplayer shooters, and like for a game that I have 1,300 hours in on just Steam alone, I definitely have more across the Steam and Xbox. But for a game that I have this much time in, I just can't play like an entire aspect of it. It's not well done anymore. Like it's just not good, and I just don't want to get shit on. And I just, even if they were to introduce an item that like you have to have, it would have to be like so exorbitantly powerful that like something else in my vault can't handle that I would jump in. Otherwise, like I just don't give a shit anymore. So I like the finals. Going back to the original point, the finals is it's well balanced enough but it's still fun, um and it's competitive enough but I could still have a good time with it. And so like those two things mixed together, uh it just makes a winning formula. And like this is not even counting the destruction and the different game modes and everything. But yeah, I think the finals is fucking fantastic, and I think more people should be playing it. uh and that's just one of the games, right?
Yeah,
I'm not. I still have one more game.
go
I've
for
only
it.
been playing like two main things this week. It's been the finals and the new Dark Tide update that came out a few days ago. Um, have I talked about this at all last week?
I don't think so.
I don't think it's even been out for a week, but
Okay.
maybe that's probably why.
Hmm.
But the new Dark Tide update, it's called Nightmares and Visions. They added a new wave-based roguelite mode, which is actually a lot of fun. Like the power-ups and the upgrades that they give you in this mode, they some of it is just fucking bonkers. Like, for example, they did a complete overhaul to the Ogren class, which is just the tank class. I'm sure you remember it from the brief times that we've played.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, so one of his grenade abilities is just a box of grenades. When you throw it, it spits out 6 other grenades, and they all blow up at like slightly different times. So it's like a cluster bomb. One of the upgrades in this roguelite mode, which is called the Mortis Trials, is so either you could pick a minor update that gives you your grenade back every 20 seconds, and you can have a maximum of 3 of these boxes at a time. So that's just like one extremely good passive thing. Another one that I thought was just absolutely fucking hilarious was on top of the 6 grenades that pop out of this box, you get like 2 smokes, an incendiary grenade, an extra 3 frag grenades on top of the existing 6 that you already have coming out of the box, and then the frag bomb, which is Darktide's version of like a mini nuke. And it's just, but so you can get that paired with the 20-second cooldown for the grenades, and you're just throwing these things out, and like my laptop definitely can't handle it, and it's like obvious, but I was just playing it just before we started recording, and my desktop like has trouble keeping up when I'm just chucking these fucking boxes out. But it just it's a lot of fun, and Darktide is a game where they overwhelm you with enemies to the point where like sometimes if you're not like a top 1% player, like you're just not gonna know what to do. Um, but these power-ups, they give you the tools to deal with these ridiculous mobs that they throw at you, and it's just a really good time. And like so far, this has been the best update that they've had since actually the last one, since Unlocked and Loaded. But yeah, like it. So those are the 2 games that I've been playing. I'm not gonna waste too much more time talking about this, but yeah. So the finals and Darktide are the 2 games that I've been playing this week.
That's fair.
Far cry from like the smorgasbord that I putz around with on a weekly basis.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's what I've been playing. Fucking 12 minutes into the recording.
I mean, hey, if you got a lot to play, that's a big part of it. We love our video games here. That's you know, that's what this is all about in the end. So I'm glad you got a chance to really like, even though there's a lot of similarity is there between the different games, they're different enough. You know, you're getting your fill of different games.
Yeah, yeah. And I actually went out of my way a couple days ago to check the Steam charts for the concurrent concurrent active players for the finals, and I'm like, what does Darktide look like? So the finals had like 16,000 concurrent players on like a random weekday afternoon, which is like okay for that game, but that's just Steam. We don't know what console numbers are like. Darktide, this is prior to the update launching, had like 4,000. Like it was not a lot of people. Yeah. But I don't think the game is anywhere close to dying. I'm actually gonna look it up right now while we're talking. But anyway, that's what I've been playing. What Anthony, pray tell, what have you been playing this week?
So I mentioned last week, you know, I was making my way through Kingdom Hearts, and I had said like, oh, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna 100% it, but I'm gonna try. And while it is not 100% in the traditional, like I got literally everything, I 100%ed it everywhere it matters. All the super bosses, level 100, did full synthesis. I got everything conceivably done from a content standpoint. So I pushed further than I thought I was going to. I honestly thought when I hit synthesis, I was just going to give the fuck up because I didn't feel like grinding for all those materials, but I ended up doing it. So once I finished that, I had this Kingdom Hearts shaped hole in me. I was just like, what can I do next? So I started playthroughs of like both sequels, so RE Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm taking it a little easier with those. They're on the higher difficulties, but I'm not gearing up for like 100% immediately. I have them more on the back burner. When I was done, I was just like, you know, I need something to like take a breather, you know, something to relax. And I just every now and again I'll flip through the Game Pass catalog, and I'll flip through the games with gold, which is now defunct, but it still has its own tab. It shows you what you own, right?
Yep.
And I'm just like, fuck it. I've played this game once. I haven't played it in a long time, and we keep fucking talking about it. So let me go back and play Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and it's I don't know, it's not like fondness, right? Because like we talked last week, we're just like, oh, you know, we both know the Assassin's Creed, we're older fans, we're fan of the older games. You know, I was just it was so nice. I don't know. Maybe it's because the last time I tried to play Assassin's Creed, it was the new RPG ones, and it just left a really nasty taste in my mouth. But just like the traditional Assassin's Creed experience with the addition of the piracy and the boat stuff going on there, it was just nice to get back into. It's relaxing in a way, because it's just like, you're wandering these big environments looking for things to do. There's a lot of collectibles to find, there's a lot of side stuff to do, and it's just nice. I don't know if I'll end up doing a full playthrough. I probably will, but it's just, I have my complaints about Assassin's Creed from the get-go, and I feel that going back to Black Flag, but it's just so much, it's leagues above when I went back and tried to play those RPG games. The last time I really played the game, which was Syndicate, I tried that. It just wasn't all there. It looks and feels better than how Shadows looks and handles, right? And it's just, I don't know. It's nice. I'm enjoying it. Maybe I'll beat it. But that's, other than that, I've been that Fatal Fury game that's coming up is running another beta, and I've been playing that too, and I've been enjoying that. So not much to really say. It's a fighting game. How am I gonna really?
Yeah, the last Assassin's Creed game I think I played was I tried to go into Assassin's Creed Origins, which was when they really made the shift from like action game to action RPG, where you get all the loot drops and the stats and everything. And I just couldn't bring myself to get through more than like 2, maybe 3 hours.
Yeah,
I was sitting there playing it. I'm like, this is not Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, it's like, when you go back and play the originals, you are kind of like, it hits you at a certain point where you're just like, oh, there's like very light RPG elements in the original Assassin's Creed games, where it's just like fine tune what weapon you have, or upgrade your armor, or go out and find something. Like each game back then, it kind of became formulaic in itself, where it's like each game had like a legendary armor set to find, and stuff like that. But it wasn't like constant loot drops and health bars. That was so nice, because even though it didn't scratch this itch, I've been looking for a game where it's just like heavy weighted combat, where it feels like you're fighting for your fucking life. And Black Flag really didn't give that to me. It's just not what it's really built for, but it was the closest I felt in a while. I don't really think there's a game out there that feels like what I'm describing, but it was nice to like go back and just like, oh wait, if I position myself, I can insta-kill this guy, or if I keep my chain going, I'll be able to kill these guys in rapid succession as long as I play it smart. I wasn't whittling down a health bar, I wasn't, shoehorned into a lot of things. It's just, it's been fun,
Yeah.
In a way that the series really hasn't been for a while. I liked Unity, but I will say, like, which is just in the middle, just trying to throw that. It's fine. It's like the story and character is like basically Assassin's Creed 2 light. Like, they really wanted to do another Ezio kind of game and kind of character.
Speaking of Ezio,
very fluid and fun.
As far as I understand it, Shadows is the first game I think ever since they made the like in the new era of Assassin's Creed, where there is no Ezio armor set that you can find in the game.
Really?
Yeah, which I think is pretty wild. Like, if you want to make the argument that it's like not historically accurate based in like the time, set, and setting of the game,
don't give
like,
a shit.
Okay, fine.
No,
listen, it's a fucking game. That's bullshit.
Listen. We can't really get. We can't keep doing that.
Yeah,
where they told. No, and I'm not. This isn't a shot at you. I'm saying the whole historically accurate thing is like, because during the entire press circuit for Shadows, and I guess we can really just roll into it because we're going to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows. The whole entire press circuit for Shadows was everybody calling them out, because normally they're about historical accuracy, but then Shadows, they just decided they were going to do whatever fiction they wanted in the historical setting. So I don't want to hear about how Ezio's outfit would not be historically accurate, given the fucking kerfuffle we just went through that in the pre-release for Shadows. Because one of the nice things about the old Assassin's Creed games, and then we'll talk about Shadows proper, is that all the Assassin's Creed games had like the Uplay connection when they were still trying to do that. I think they call it Ubisoft Connect now. But the Uplay stuff, it's like, oh, you would play a Ubisoft game, right? And you'd build up points, and then you could spend those points across all of your games. That was kind of cool. And one of the things you could always buy is like older armor from like the older characters. Like even in Black Flag, I have Altair's armor available, Ezio's armor available, and Connor's outfit. Like I have all of them. Like I guess younger me at a certain spent those Uplay points to get those outfits. Like it's just a thing. So like this may seem like a small thing, but if they're if that's like the excuse where some people, be it fans or developers, either or, are saying, oh, it's not historically accurate. Number one, that's bullshit, just in the context of Shadows, and number two, that like breaks a series tradition. But yeah, let's talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows, Dan.
Yeah, so Assassin's Creed Shadows is very, very polarizing. Now I have not played the game. I don't plan on playing it. I don't plan on buying it. Like as I've just said, essentially, Assassin's Creed is really not my thing anymore. It's fallen out of touch of its roots. It's just not the same thing.
Yes.
That being said, apparently Shadows is basically like if you like the new formula that Mirage introduced, not Mirage, that Origins introduced and like has been the same formula for every Assassin's Creed game following that. This is just more of that in feudal Japan, and a lot of people want that apparently. I don't think that it did like that great critically, maybe like 7s or 8s across the board, which is like fine, but it's just another average 7 or 8. But I don't have any sales numbers up in front of me or anything, but
nobody does.
I'm pretty sure it's sold pretty well.
So that's where they get you. Let's what were you gonna say before I don't mean to cut you off.
That's all I was gonna say. You just made me chuckle.
So to kind of like, we talked about it a little bit last week, but it is pretty much just a by the numbers Assassin's Creed game. That's pretty much the but it's funny because you have the usual crowd going like, oh, you know, Assassin's Creed sucks now, because it kind of does. It's just formulaic. It's, you know, it's whatever. But now you have the same people that buy it year over year over year for when it was still yearly, and you also have like the cultural people who want Assassin's Creed Shadows to succeed as some kind of own in like the culture or whatever, are trying to pretend it's more than it is. It's like, you gotta understand, like, even if Assassin's Creed Shadows is good by the series standard, it's still, as you so nicely put it last week, slop. You know, it's like, it's not like some grand achievement. But as far as Assassin's Creed goes, the latest number is 3 million players. Right? What few sales numbers we have are in like certain regions. Like I think opening week in Japan, it did like 17,000 copies or something like that. Something
That's
really low.
Not a lot.
See, Japan is a smaller market, which is why there's a lot of, you know, problems as far as like games from Japan trying to westernize themselves. That's a whole other topic. But for context, what was it? Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is a remaster of a Wii U exclusive, came out, and it came out the same week, I believe, or in close proximity, did 90,000 copies that week.
That's a big difference.
It is a big difference. So I don't think it's selling well over there, but I wasn't really expecting it to, because it's Assassin's Creed, even if it's set in Japan. And it's just like, Ubisoft is still doing their little circuit where they talk about players, not sales. They're also doing shit like hours, like, oh, thank you for playing. And it's just like, call me cynical, but like, the more vocal a company gets with positivity, especially with numbers that aren't hard sales that they have to confirm to people higher up above them, like, I get cynical, Dan. I say, like, there's something amiss here. You aren't doing as well as you'd like. That's what it comes off as to me. And they're trying to like maybe spin up, you know, the success stories to maybe bait more people into buying it, you know, maybe there. But it's just like, I don't, for a series that used to move tens of millions, for a company that was in such a bad position, and I said this last week, it's just, I don't think it's going to be where it needs to be. But there are obviously a few developments outside the performance and the reviews, right? The two things to go over, one's more like petty, and I'm just going to get that out of the way, and then the second one's what's more important. Firstly, there's been a few issues with, or a few confrontations with prominent personalities online. I don't know if you heard about any of this.
No, I have not.
Everybody's favorite people had a few things to say. So basically, somebody pointed out that one of the influencers that they hired to like talk about the game is prominent in the political space and is a terrorist sympathizer.
Oh my god.
So somebody that everybody knows jumps in to call this out. So Elon Musk shows up.
Oh Jesus.
And he calls him like a hack or a fraud or something, and they start feuding, and the Assassin's Creed Twitter account jumps in, and now all eyes are on top of it, and people are like, oh my god, the Assassin's Creed account burned Elon Musk so good, and he's like, oh my god, I'm gonna go buy Assassin's Creed Shadows just to spite Elon Musk, because everybody fucking hates that guy now, because he's the mean Twitter man, and he's also in politics. And then everybody's other favorite gaming personality, Mark Kern, the Blizzard
name
guy.
definitely rings the bell. Yeah, okay.
We've talked about him before, because you actually brought him up to me on one of the previous episodes. Was his name Grums on Twitter? Yeah, Mark. Yeah, you brought it up on an early. Yeah, he gets a lot of attention because he's an ex-Blizzard guy, and he's one of the more vocal about culture shifts in the Twitter space. I don't give a fuck about any of these people. It's just these are just names I know, and because they're speaking a certain way about like the issues in the gaming space, they get turned into boogeymen. So Kern, he says something about Assassin's Creed where he's just like, oh, you know, something about like, oh, this doesn't look good. They're not telling us the sales numbers. They're talking about player counts. And then the Assassin's Creed account said something like, at least our game came out at all, because he apparently has some crowdfunding project. It's so weird. It's like we're not talking about the game anymore. It's just like people are cheering on social media accounts of games because they target the right people, and it's just like all of this is in service of just like a mid ARPG series that used to be something so much better. And it's just like all of the news is pivoting to like, oh, look at this account score owns on Twitter, and like you have like the social media managers like doing victory laps on LinkedIn, and I'm just like, is the game fucking good or not? Because I keep hearing it's just more shit that we've been seeing for like the last 8 Assassin's Creed games. And all of this leads up to what ended up happening. Says, as all these people are saying 3 million is an amazing number, and look at all the people that Assassin's Creed managed to piss off or whatever, because everything's a cultural fucking war zone nowadays. Everybody's trying to score brownie points or, you know, voting with their wallets for the wrong reasons. Ubisoft and Tencent are opening a subsidiary of Ubisoft.
Yeah, that's something else I was gonna get into. Also, I'm glad that we transitioned into this.
Yeah, because this is the more important thing. Like, I think all the cultural stuff is petty and worth examining just to see how stupid people get, but the more important thing about this, like, if you really want to take scores, like, we finally have a player in that space. Tencent, which is, I have a feeling Tencent wanted this to begin with, and they were just waiting for
absolutely. Yeah,
but I mean to say, like, I'm sure there's probably like a paper trail to follow as far as like,
yeah, they're just sharks circling a bleeding fish.
Yeah, I want to know how much they had to do with policy in Ubisoft, because I think they're some of the biggest funders of like all the like initiatives and bullshit that changes how games are developed. I'm pretty sure Tencent has a big hand in funding that overseas, not in their own borders, of course, but overseas they'll fund it. And I think like the conspiracy right now is like they had a direct hand in funding Ubisoft's like initiatives and DEI and shit like that, and that's why, you know, they've tanked. I mean, I think it's a quality thing. They just bought into it because they're like-minded that way, one way or the other. But the whole point all this leads to is now Tencent, I think they have a 25% ownership of this new subsidiary. Allegedly, okay. Ubisoft still has full creative control. I don't buy that for a second. And I think this stacks with a certain amount of ownership that Tencent already had, but I'm not too sure about that. And what everybody's saying, you know, after, you know, because there are some people that are dumb enough to look at this buyout, so to speak. I'm gonna call it a buyout, even though it's not really a buyout. They essentially have their foot in the door of just completely owning Ubisoft and all the things they do, right?
I mean, 25% is a big fucking stake.
It's a big stake, and it's like they are the ones that came to play to a company that was looking for somebody for this position. So they're essentially at the like on their knees in front of them now.
Yeah, but I think that Ubisoft, like, they don't even deserve what they got because
No.
they deserve to be bought out and all creative control taken away from the people in charge.
Yeah.
Instead, what they got was a carve out, and they still retain full creative control of the IPs that they wanted to retain control over.
Yeah.
And they just didn't deserve it. So
Yeah,
I think they got extremely lucky.
I do too, but I think it's really only so much at the top. I do think that as time goes on, we're going to see that what the stake really translates to for Ubisoft, and I think the only real winners are how do you say the fucking name? Gilman?
Yves Gilman, I think.
I think the L's are silent or something. I pronounced it once, and it took me like 8 takes on a fucking news hole I did a couple months ago. But anyway, that family is the real winner because they wanted this. They wanted an easy bailout. Whatever. I'm gonna stress this again. I'm almost positive that regardless of what they say on paper, regardless of what they say in like the press outlets, right? The full creative control for Ubisoft. There's so many strings attached to that. There's no way that Tencent will not have their hands in it in some way, shape, or form. The only way Tencent does not have their hands in it is if they are happy with the trajectory they're on, in hopes that they will buy more and more ownership of this subsidiary until they have full control, both on paper and and legal. But I mean, right now, as everybody's, I've seen some really dumb people dance, because I've seen some really fucking stupid people say that this is like good for Ubisoft. No, good for Ubisoft would have been turning the ship around and not needing somebody to come in and buy them. And what do you think is going to happen to their very bloated workforce now that they are no longer necessary for government handouts? What do you think is going to happen? Like everybody,
question.
all the people now, I've seen a few smart outlets say like, what's going to happen to the 19,000 people employed at Ubisoft? And I can tell you right now, that number is not going to remain at 19,000 for long. The only reason he was even near that number is because Ubisoft needed to keep it at that height in order to receive government handouts. But now they have Tencent money, and I don't know. It's an uncertain future for them now. But that's like, what's the best way to put this? It's basically they have a ticking clock on them now, because it's
Now they
the
gotta
path.
perform.
Yeah, it's the path is just going to lead to Tencent getting what they want, and what they want.
The path is gonna lead to Tencent getting what they want.
Exactly, like they already do. Like I'm not pretending like Tencent's like who kept at bay or anything. They are already like, this is just a win for them, and I guess the guys at the top of Ubisoft, the employees and everybody else involved. It's just like, I guess it's also a win for the people who just like to think they won online or something like that. I'm sure they're happy. They see it's like, oh, look how good Assassin's Creed did. Tencent bought Ubisoft. I'm like, no, they were waiting for the stock to drop as low as possible. I think their stock is still at like the lowest point it's ever been. Let me double check.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a quick look and then we can move on to something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just like, it was really a matter of time, who was gonna buy it. I'm not shocked that it's Tencent. They throw their money around like a swinging dick anyway.
Yeah.
So they own a lot of shit, man. Like, oh god, I wish I had like an infographic of what they own, but I'm not really gonna go looking for that right now.
Yeah, we've talked about a few times, like both Tencent and Ubisoft, like how like Tencent's influence reaches into so many pockets, and Ubisoft's IPs, there's just so many great IPs behind them. Let's see. I mean, their stock very briefly broke $3 and then just immediately went back down. Like
let me ask you this: do you think that Tencent buying this 25% chunk of Ubisoft, even if it's just a carve out thing, is this a good or a bad thing for the IPs? I will tell you that I think that this is probably a net positive for all of the very good IPs that Ubisoft controls right now.
Yeah, the IPs, yes. I think in the long term at the very least, because I do think that if Tencent were to, I think over time they are going to phase out a lot of the existing employee base and just replace it with their own labor, or supplement it with their own labor. And at that point, like, a lot of these legacy franchises that have either been on the outs or have been just mishandled constantly year over year, we'll see a somewhat of a turnaround as far as quality and release schedule. I think the only two IPs that will avoid that are probably Assassin's Creed, because of how big it is. I think that'll be like a slow turn, and then also Rainbow Six, just because Siege is like a 20-year long game plan game, which has just reached its 10th year. I don't think we're going to see too drastic a change in either of those IPs in the near future, but the rest, it's possible that we'll see.
Yeah, I would agree
something
with that. I mean, things like The Division or Far Cry or oh god, what else does Ubisoft? I know, Splinter Cell. Like, give us another Splinter Cell game, please.
Yeah.
Like, those things might have new life breathed into them, but like you said, like Assassin's Creed and shit, what was the other one? I already forgot. Wow.
Rainbow Six.
Rainbow Six. Yeah, I mean, those two they're just too big to go anywhere, or for it to change too much. Too many people play them.
Change too much is what I was mainly getting at, because just because of the certain legacy structure behind those and how they've been handled in the last 10 years. It's like some things have come and gone, but that in particular will be the slowest to change. But I guess it's just a matter of waiting and see what happens from this point, because it's either Tencent is comfortable in their position with the company and they immediately start like investing, or if they are happy enough to let Ubisoft hang themselves a bit more so that they can swoop in and get more of a controlling share.
Definitely,
and it'll
more
be like a
their
slow
MO.
creep. Yeah, I do think, like, if there was a different family leading the charge at Ubisoft that was less inclined for creative control, I think the buyout would have looked very different.
Yeah,
I do think that just the family at the top is just way too not protective, but like,
they're too entrenched.
Yeah, I do think it was definitely a rock in a hard place. That's the one credit I'll give. I still think everything about it's shady, and I still think that everybody involved does not have the best intentions, obviously. But
the Gilmon family just wants to make out with a good paycheck, and Tencent is just looking to invest on a thing that will give them a much larger return on investment.
Tencent just wants.
Ubisoft has done such a great job shooting themselves in each toe on every foot that it's exactly what Tencent has been waiting for.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I do think it's really just a matter of because Tencent's ultimate goal is just like complete control, and they have been in a position where it's like they're slow, they swoop in, they eat up companies and markets that have been worn down just by all this, I harp on the cultural stuff a lot because it is just an objective negative in everything it touches that can just be avoided completely. But there are other factors that come into, like, there is a great deal of quality loss and talent bleed. The Japanese market, one of the biggest contenders in the space since its inception, has been basically killing itself by trying to appeal to Western values because they just think the Japanese market is too small. There's been layoffs, which, as much as I'm for the layoffs, it still does weaken the industry as a whole more than it was before. But we'll see what happens. Tencent will always be looming. We'll see. We'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting development. I'm not shocked that it was Tencent. So we'll see what happens with it. And I don't know. Hopefully they turn around some of the IPs. I would love to play a new Far Cry. I would love to play a new Splinter Cell. I would love to play a Rainbow Six that wasn't so much of a hero shooter. And I would love to play like an OG Assassin's Creed. So we'll see what happens with that. And The Division, I'm a fan of the genre, so I will always give that a shot.
Yeah, two is pretty shitty though.
Yeah,
two is pretty shitty.
All right, so we've talked about Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft enough. I want to shift to
Yeah.
something that filled me with such joy when you sent it.
Oh, yeah, go for
Um,
it.
Game Informer is coming back.
Yes.
Hallelujah. Fucking Luya. Oh man, that put me in such a good mood when you sent that. And because like the valley that I went through when we heard that Game Informer was shutting down was so low. And now for it to come back from the dead, I'm like, I am elated. I am 100% subscribing to that magazine again. And I'm getting the print copies. That was such like a huge part of my childhood from like fucking 10 or 11 up to, I don't know, 16, 17, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Um, and man, that was such a good, good like publication. So to hear that it's coming back from the dead is just it. I am so happy that that's happening. It's like
Yeah.
a piece of my childhood coming back.
Yeah.
I'm very, very excited for that. Do you
No,
know
it's
like the details of like why they're coming back?
so my understanding is that a company that I've already forgotten swooped in and kind of bailed them out. It is one of those situations where they're being like propped up. They have full self ownership. Apparently, all the employees have returned, so it's just a matter
Oh,
of seeing what they
wow.
do with it. They retroactively did some stuff too, like they posted their top 10 games of 2024 and things like that.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously the wheels have just started to turn, so we're gonna have to see what happens. I'm curious to
Yeah.
see it, just because I kind of when they died, I kind of peered behind the curtain and I saw some of the stuff that I didn't like had kind of led into it. Not that I'm not writing off the entire publication, obviously. It's just I'm a bit more hesitant than you, I guess I would say. But it's nice to have
Well,
I don't
then
know.
I guess there's like always a chance that I mean Game Informer closed and then all of a sudden like what less than a month later they're coming back from the dead.
It was a
So
bit longer than that.
I guess
Couple months.
your skepticism is pretty warranted. Like, what the fuck happened there? Um,
Yeah.
so the only thing that we could do is just wait until they come back and see what's going on with that. But
Yeah.
I don't think they were like irrelevant in the digital space. You know, like they had their
Hmm.
own website. They had a series that I actually watched pretty often called New Gameplay Today.
Hmm.
Um, I always enjoyed it. I never had the magazine for over 10 years at this point, or
Hmm.
probably over 15, really. So I I don't know. Like again, your skepticism is not like unfounded, but I'm just so overwhelmed with like the good feeling of them coming back. Like I just I don't even know like a negative thing that I could take from this.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't
Don't
really.
don't let my skepticism rain on your parade. I'm not saying there's going to be anything
Well, you are a
awful or
skeptical
terrible.
motherfucker just to
We
begin
are.
with. So
Listen, I keep saying this. Things are getting better, but like that's just it's in my nature to be skeptic, and it's just we're not out of the woods yet. So like we'll
yeah.
see what happens with Game
Well, I
Informer.
don't
Like I
think
said,
they're gonna reach a point where like they're gonna own themselves. You know, I think
I'm
that's
pretty
kind of
sure
out
they
the
already
window.
do.
Well, then
But
how did they come back
like,
from the dead? Like
but that's
someone
what
had to have given them money.
like I'm saying that the terms as laid out in as simply as possible. Obviously, we'll see what happens when they start it again. But it was basically a a buyout where they have full creative control. It's just like they get payment back, but
So then
ultimately
who?
it's
So whoever bought them,
mhm.
who is like, what are they getting?
That's
Or it's just an investment?
let
Because
me
if they
see.
weren't profitable before and they still have complete
Let's
creative
see.
control, how are they going to be profitable now?
Let's see.
I'm not trying to
Let's
be
see.
an asshole. I'm just like,
No,
that's
I'm
from
trying
like a
to.
business perspective, that doesn't make any sense.
Gunzilla Games, a game development studio, acquired the rights to Game Informer and reestablished it as an independent business.
I've
The
never even
acquisition,
heard of Gunzilla games.
yeah, the acquisition occurred after Game Informer team, led by editor-in-chief Matt Miller, expressed interest in resurrecting the outlet. Gunzilla Games not only secured the brand, but also rehired the entire staff that had been let go by GameStop, ensuring continuity with the same team that had been working on it before the closure.
Maybe these guys are just, you know, OG gaming fans that didn't want to see it die. I
Maybe.
mean, if I'm being altruistic.
Yeah. Why the name
I
kind of
mean,
sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Gunzilla game. What have they made? What have they published?
Oh, they don't have a they don't have a Wikipedia page, so
Oh,
it
that's
can't
encouraging.
it can't be much.
Jesus.
Hold on. Let's see what else we can find.
Yeah, I'm gonna Google it. I have to know now. Oh, they made Off the Grid. Okay.
Let's see what else they
Uh,
made.
that's like the
Uh,
latest thing that Off the
um,
Grid. That's the only thing on their website. That's the only thing they're advertising.
on their website. That's the only
Yeah,
thing on their website.
yeah.
Oh, they were
Uh,
founded in 2020.
oh, they're very new.
They also made a blockchain game called Guns.
Oh,
So
that just doesn't sound good.
apparently
I
the
just,
blockchain is also like, here's the thing, it doesn't really matter what they've made, because at the end of the day, what they've done in context of what we're talking about is a completely different thing, so I guess it's not the biggest deal. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. But the fact remains, uh, I'm very happy to have Game Informer back, and I am curious to see what the subscription model looks like because
Yeah.
I am definitely interested in subscribing. I don't really like read a whole lot, Anthony, but I would read that magazine.
So
So,
just the way you said that, I don't read a whole lot.
although I did finish like three different books last year,
Hmm.
so I don't know. Maybe I'm just full of shit. Oh my God. Let's see what else we got. Because that was like those are the two biggest things that I wanted to talk about naturally
Yeah.
was the Ubisoft carve out and Game Informer coming back.
Yeah.
There was something else that I had, but I am blanking on it now.
Let's
Probably
see
should
if
have
it
written it down.
come. Let's see if it comes to you. But I'll just say real quick. I saw I watched the Nintendo Direct that was recent.
Okay, how was that?
It was all right.
It was, it
Really.
was exactly the reaction I was expecting.
So there was a few things that are like that surprised me just because I wasn't expecting. Like, for example, there's a new game in this old game called Tomodachi Life, which is just it's basically just a meme game. It's like a social experiment game where you set up Mii's and they do weird little interactions, and it's good for like content creators online because they make a lot of funny stuff with it. I wasn't expecting that. I think the last one came out on the 3DS a while ago. There was a cool little beat 'em up called Marvel Cosmic Invasion.
Okay.
So that looks pretty
Is it
cool.
bad that every time I hear like Marvel in front of like any game, I just get immediely filled with this ugh feeling?
I can't say I blame you, man. The brand is just so damaged between like the decline of their television and movies, their all of their misguided experiments in games, and their comics are dreadful. Like we talk
Yeah,
about like I obviously we primarily talk about games, but like every issue that we've talked about in games that can be shared across mediums, comics has like in triplicate. Like it's basically like whatever filters and barriers are in place to basically keep the gaming industry standing, the comics industry just doesn't have. Like there's so many like people writing, like basically turning these once great brands into like personal grievance pulpits. Like I don't know how to just to describe it. It's like all the storytelling is dog shit, or stuff that like revolves around modern day nonsense. It's just it is a cesspool. But yes, I understand why hearing Marvel just kind of makes you go ugh. Yeah.
I don't want it to be that way. It just is.
No, that's just the way it is right now. The comic industry is like. Thank God we're not a comics focused,
Oh God.
program here,
I
because it
don't
would
think
just
my
be
psyche can take it.
it would be week after week of misery. Like that's a whole other like. Don't get me wrong. I had a lot of comics as a kid. I like a lot of those franchises. I still have my old collection, but like it was never my like go-to passion. It's just it's what I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, but aside from that, they also did what else we got here? They finally showed some gameplay from Metroid Prime 4, which looks pretty neat. there were two things that surprised me. There's Patapon 1+2 and Everybody's Golf Hot Shots. And the reason that surprised me, those are Sony, like, third party, second party, whatever you want to call them, properties. And just out of the blue, they showed up on the Switch, which leads me to believe that Sony has given up on mobile gaming and handheld gaming, because that's where those two have ended up. Because Patapon was obviously a big PSP game back in the day. Everybody's Golf, formerly Hot Shots Golf in the West. They're calling this one Everybody's Golf Hot Shots. Started on the PlayStation 1, but eventually became just like something that would show up on mobile platforms. Very surprised that Sony just played ball quietly, and I can only say that it isn't necessarily a like, oh look, we're gonna branch out to other platforms like Xbox is doing, and more a hey, we're not doing anything with these, let's just put out some more handheld games on somebody else's handheld, you know.
Yeah.
Other than that, not much really to talk about. Just a few small things. Nothing earth-shattering. They're probably saving that for the Switch 2 directs and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously didn't watch the Nintendo Direct. It's just not my thing. You know, I'm not really gonna dedicate time to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you got anything else? Because like I said, this has been kind of a slow week for me as far as news goes.
Nothing else came to you as far as
no, like I've just been working so much that I just.
That's fine.
The
only reason I asked is because you mentioned you were just like you were just like, you know, there was one other thing that you were thinking that.
No, it's escaping me. If it was something, I mean, Game Informer and Ubisoft, like those are the two really big things this week. So we got to those two, obviously, but and like the only other things that I wanted to talk about were like the updates to the games that I play, and the Path of Exile 2. It's getting its first expansion like soon-ish. I think in April. Adding a new class, like a bunch of like balancing changes, like 100+ support gems. Like it's gonna be like this really big update. According to a bunch of people that main Path of Exile 2, and like that's like their bread and butter. Like people are very excited for this. So we'll see how that goes. I kind of stopped playing. I didn't even beat the campaign. It's pretty hard. It's pretty difficult. And I don't really have the attention span to like seriously min-max my build. So I just kind of put it down for a while. I'll probably go back to it eventually, but it's just too much right now.
No. All right.
Yeah. Beyond that, I mean, like I said,
that's fun.
Slow week for Dan.
Okay. Well, I've got my last little thing. If there's nothing else that you can think of.
Well, yeah. Go ahead and talk about it. If I do remember anything, I will bring it up. Okay.
Well, Daniel, it is that time of the month where I give you a little bit of a rant related to fighting games, and then more specifically,
man, why do we always end with this? You know what? Next week, can we start with a rant?
Sure. Next week, I promise you we'll start with a rant, all right?
Okay.
So, Daniel, I'm going to talk to you about two players in the Smash Brothers scene and some important goings-on that happened as a result of the two of them, all right? Let me tell you first about a fellow by the name of Abdulaziz Al-Yami. He was known by the handle Hacks, right? Okay. He started playing competitive Super Smash Bros. Melee back in 2009, and he was quite good at it. Won a fair share of tournaments. Very technical player. He had a very strong presence. Even if you didn't go to tournaments, you'd probably hear his name from the various YouTube compilations of plays, or see people talking about the controller he made, or maybe you played at his tournament, Hacks' Nightclub out in New York City. He wasn't one of the quote-unquote gods of Melee. That's what they call them. They call him gods of Melee. But people liked him, and he was a positive force for the scene around Melee. As far as, I hate to give, this is all based off of my passive knowledge from throughout the years and what people have been saying this last week. So don't take this from me. This is just my recounting of it and how people handled it and my little bit of digging, all right? But that's, he was a positive force, which you kind of need for a game like Melee, which is trying to outlast 3 sequels, Brawl, Smash 4, Ultimate. It's got to have a strong presence. He died on March 25th this week. He was killed by the Melee community on the whims of one particular player.
Wait. Hold on. What was the cause of death?
Complications from a previous injury, which I'll get to.
Okay.
Uh, how do I pronounce this guy's name? William Yelta is another prominent player. He's known by the handle of Leffen. Leffen started out a little later than Hacks, about a year apart. Out of the gate, he had similar strong performance. He wasn't necessarily as technical as Hacks, but he competed more frequently, traveled a bit more, and while not considered one of those gods that I mentioned before, he did have a spree where he competed against and defeated those players. He is one of the most, if not the most, vile people to come out of either the Smash community or the fighting game community. So let me give you a bit of an example. Both of these guys are a year younger than us, right? They both started, I think it was 2008, 2009, as I said before, where both of them started. They both are very strong competitors in their own right. And Leffen, from the get-go, was just a terrible, terrible person. Like,
okay.
You gotta understand, like, this is a different time frame back in 2009 where there was more forum activity, less social media activity. Both were kind of there, but it was kind of different spread, and you kind of know how that works. I don't mean this because, in this day and age, a lot of people like to say, like, oh, he's such a bad person, but he just said, oh, someone said retard once and they should be canceled in 2026 or something like that, I'm not saying that. He was definitely a part of that. He would do things that would make, like, everybody likes to point to the Modern Warfare lobbies of old and how terrible of a cesspool those, he was definitely part of that, but, like,
those lobbies very fondly.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Anthony.
Yes, exactly. I miss them too. But the whole point is, like, he goes above and beyond what people consider, like, all the more sensitive people nowadays consider cancelable actions, right? He was online constantly. Like, he'd play a match with a guy, he'd get in a disagreement with the guy, he's like, go drink bleach, kill yourself. He would insult. He would look for weak points, right? If you had a disability and he knew about it, he would go out of his way to mock you or attack you in a way that would only target your disability. There's a famous story where the second he found out that a person he was playing against had a hearing disability, he would just start mouthing his words instead of just speaking them. If he knew
an asshole.
if he knew that you had issues with alcoholism in the past, he would call you a washed up drunk. He would basically target you or people you knew and people you loved, family members. Nothing was off the table for this guy. He would attack people constantly.
It sounds like a much scummier version of Conor McGregor.
He is like, listen, like, all of, like, I'm talking about how terrible this guy is, but of course, like, all of the traditional trash talk is there too. Like, he is filled to the brim and then he's gone over the brim as far as how terrible he is, right? And he at one point was actually banned. He's from Sweden, this guy. He at one point was banned from, like everybody in Sweden band together and said, like, we're gonna ban you from these tournaments, and he had to take a hiatus. I forget how long he was banned for. But he would basically, I think he tried to leave the country to compete, but his visa got declined, but it was just, whatever. This aside. Now, the reason I bring up the two of these players is because, they started around the same time, and from the very early days, Leffen would attack or, like, talk shit about him whenever possible, because he did that with fucking everybody. But the more prominent you were, the more you were on his radar. And basically, at a certain point, Hacks, who was a bit spotty with his performance because he had issues with his hands that he needed surgery for, but at a certain point he finally said enough is enough, and he did this lengthy video and multi-page documenting everything he knew about Leffen and how he was a bad person, and all the different things that he would do. And Hax's sin, so to speak, Dan, is that this rebuke basically verged on a manifesto. Let me be completely clear. He was not wrong. He was hyperbolic. He was hyperbolic, and he was a little paranoid. And guess what? He apologized for it. But that didn't matter, because now he was on Leffen's shit list. And Leffen, is the kind of guy that the second he gets even a little bit of criticism his way, he will immediately whine about it, talk about how he no longer feels he like immediately he's like, I no longer feel safe at these tournaments. I shouldn't have to worry about death threats just because I may trash talk a little bit. But the problem is he's also a weasel who knows a lot of people at the top. Like, he knows tournament organizers, he knows top players, and he has enough clout where he basically ended up getting hacks banned. And it's not just like a regular ban. Like, he was based in New York City, hacks, but like a major bit. Like, when the community bands together at the top, it's never for a good reason. It's just power hungry people at the top wanting to exert that power, and they used it to the fullest extent that they could on hacks. He could not compete anywhere. The people that, like, he opened that tournament series I talked about called Hacks' Nightclub in New York City. They stole that from him and renamed it. Over the course of 4 years, it was just this endless loop of, like, him apologizing, him begging to be let back into the community just so that he could compete. You understand, Dan, this guy, I mentioned before that his at a certain point his competing history was spotty. That's only because his hands gave out. He was one of the most technical players around. He was doing things nobody else was doing. He came back to compete. Same thing happened with his hands. He invented a new controller. Like, he went and he got, like, what's popular nowadays, they're called hitboxes, where there's no, like, analog stick or like stick at all in the controller. It's just you press all the buttons for the movements and the buttons themselves. And he was doing this before they got really big. He called it the box. So it's basically just almost like a keyboard almost. You're typing on it to do all the moves instead of, moving an analog stick.
That seems like borderline unfair.
But that's a whole other conversation that I can get to one way. But the whole point is he went through all the
I just
things that he
googled an
needed
image of it, and that looks pretty trippy.
It takes a bit to get acquainted to, but it's a whole controversy that I could get to at another time, because that's been a conversation around fighting games for a while. But the whole point is he invents this new controller. He bases it around what Smash Brothers needs. He goes through all the hoops to make sure that it would be legal for him to use, and he basically relearns the game on this thing, right? And after that happened, he basically wanted to, like, also turn it into something he could sell. Other players with similar issues could use. And this is separate from the Leffen thing, but he gets screwed there. The guy steals the patent from him and tries to, like, take legal action against him, so he's getting screwed by this guy. Coincides later with when Leffen got him banned, because now people are making copycats of this controller. The same guy that tried to steal the patent from hacks went off, made his own version of the controller, and Leffen marketed it while also shit-talking the original controller based on nothing but the fact that he fucking hated this guy, right? So all that's going on at the same time. From that point on, during the ban, it's just literally, like, Dan, I can't express this because I'd be sitting here doing my own thing and I'd see him on Twitter. He was between the banning, being ostracized from his only social circle. This was going on during the pandemic too, so he was locked down. He had nobody to fucking talk to. He was constantly making apologies, constantly, at a certain point he was apologizing for not just things that were, like, that some people found wrong, that, it's like the gray area, like, oh, so you offended somebody. He was apologizing for things he just did not do by the end of it, right? And still, these fucking people did not forgive him. He got temporarily unbanned. Leffen threw a fit, said he didn't feel safe, and at a certain point, all the TOs, all of his friends, all the people that signed this fucking document banned him again. All this culminates in him throwing himself in front of a fucking train, which caused him to lose his... No, not quite. He lost, because get what? It gets more fucking ridiculous than that. At this point, he has done nothing wrong. He's apologized for the things that he has not done. He threw himself in front of a fucking train and lost his leg. They still wouldn't unban him. And from then on, he spent the remainder of his life, I forget how long it was, like within 6 months of him, or maybe a year of him trying to kill himself. His entire life was just him apologizing until eventually there was complications from where his leg was amputated and he died in the hospital. He died.
What the fuck?
He died groveling to people who did not deserve anything from him, because once again, his one sin was that in this call out video and call out document, he made comparisons with this player to Hitler, and he did it at the exact wrong time to do that, during peak cancel culture, and he was destroyed by this guy. And don't get me wrong, Leffen is a literal villain. Like, he is the worst person I've ever seen in a competitive community, ever. Like, he's king shit in the fighting game community because he competes in he competes in Guilty Gear because Guilty Gear's a joke now and he's able to compete there. But he tried to play in Tekken. The second he starts playing Tekken, he shit talks everybody there. He's making enemies. He didn't even play Call of Duty. He went to watch Call of Duty and he was starting shit with the competitors in Call of Duty. He is just a train wreck of a human being, and he managed to single out this one guy. Not because it was like the only time he tried it, it's just the only time it worked. Hacks gave him the ammo that was perfect for Leffen to get this guy banned, and it led to him dying. And since then, there's been kind of
That's fucked, man.
It is incredibly fucked, and it's not the only story. It's just the only story that rose to prominence, and it's just right now there's this kind of reckoning going on. Like, I've seen a lot of conversations. You have a lot of people who have been ousted over the last decade coming up and saying, like, this is enough. Like, people are kind of saying this is like a turning point for fighting games and Smash Brothers, because now it's reached another point that you just can't ignore it anymore. You let people like Leffen, who, once again, I will stress, is one of the worst people to ever come out of any competitive circuit, like, vocally so. Like, he's been an asshole for standards that would get you banned if it were you and me today, since he started playing the game like 16 years ago. He has just been a consistent awful person that has taken advantage of everybody's goodwill, and it's just a nightmare situation that I can only hope leads to some kind of change. It's too late. Like, I'm pretty sure he's not even unbanned. It's actually pretty funny because now everybody's going and looking for the names of the people that signed the document that said, like, we as a community are going to be banning hacks. It's actually funny. The reason, like, you noticed I saved that list of names, it's because they're all removing their names and they're hiding offline. There's a few people who are ballsy enough to say that they made the right decision. Go fuck yourself. But they're going into ground. Like, all these OG players that just get high on power, all these weaselly, limp-wristed pussies that literally just don't have power in their lives, so they try to exert it over this community space. And then you have all the protected classes that like to make, the fighting games and Smash their whole thing. So all those kinds of people that are like behind this banning, that signed this massive document that banned him across the country, that stole, patents for a controller he invented, that stole, his tournament circuit that he ran in the city, just absolutely insane, some of the names that are on that list. It's crazy.
I don't even, like, why is it that the fighting game community is always this fucked? Like, I don't know how else to put it.
It's really, it has to do with, and like the best way I can put this, I don't know if I'm using it right because I'm sure somebody else has used this. It has to do with, I guess you could call it fandom culture, right?
Okay.
It's the kind of stuff that, like, back in like 2010 to 2013, you have people that would basically live online and make like games, or not just games, but like any media franchise, their entire personality and the characters. Like, it goes beyond just being a fan, but like making it your entire life, right? And then there was like a mass exodus from those underground online spaces to everywhere, and then now it's like they're vocal and in the actual fan groups and trying to get into these communities. And then the lockdowns happened in 2020. Now everyone's inside, and now there's people that would never be involved in these spaces or never like end up in these spaces or in these spaces now. So there's just an influx of people that like to keep their head down and just do what's quote unquote right, and then you have this smaller segment of insane people that just that like have nothing else in their life, so they like to take advantage of these communities. Like, you said, like, why are fighting games always like this, right? It's the only reason it's like this is because you're only hearing it because I'm into fighting games. All of these online spaces are dog shit because you have all these power. It's a cluster of really weak individuals that have nothing else in their lives that need to take power however they can in their lives, and they do so through soft targets like gaming spaces. And then on the other side, you have all those protective classes. The ones I'm talking about, the same ones that have come up in the culture in the last 10 years, and they also need a soft target because they can't get anything done in real life. So they essentially make fiefdoms of gaming spaces. and they go mad with power. They think they can do anything, and then they do what they're doing now. You know, they got someone killed, they murdered this man essentially, and it's all crickets, or I did the right thing, or you have bizarre cases like Dan, like right now on the Reddit, they're trying to discredit his mother and one of the few top players actually standing up for him. They're trying to discredit him. They're trying to say like, oh, they went down the alt-right rabbit hole. You know, they're trying to attribute this to like some bizarre wrong thing, when it's like, no, you got this person's son and this other person's friend killed because you're insane. But it's like, it's just, it's a massive cultural problem that, you know, we deal with on a daily basis in regular life, but it's really, we're just seeing the repercussions of soft targets that are gaming spaces being hijacked, essentially, both in the industry and in the communities. And that's really all there is to it. Like, I always say, you know, it's like the worst parts of it are in the fighting game community and in the speedrunning community. Those are the two, and Smash is obviously, I'm lumping it in with the fighting game community, where it's just like these people just have a strong grip on everything and they ruin everything, but they have enough normal people standing around going like, I just want to keep my head down and enjoy the game, leave me alone, but they'll like vehemently fight you to the death if you point out any of the issues. That's what I can't stand about a lot of this, is like, there are so many useful fucking idiots that will like, the second you point to an issue, like let's say you and me want to like fix an issue and we see an issue and we point to it and say that's an issue, the people like will take their heads out of the sand to look at you and just like screech like, why do you want to fix this? There are more people, I guess it's a virtue signaling thing or something, where they will just constantly fight you to the death for trying to fix the problem, but won't try to fix the problems themselves because they'll just get fucking crushed. But just wanted to keep you appraised of a very extreme situation. Like I do hope that some change comes from this. There's been a large a semi-vocal group of people who have been saying like, oh, you guys are just trying to use this man's death for, you know, your own personal gains, you know, because they're afraid of losing power. So now a lot of people who've been banned over the years are stepping up and saying, hey, the community just isn't what it was back in 2016, 15, 14, whenever. And I'm hoping that there is some kind of shift up, because I just think normal people are kind of fed up with it. But it's just, you know, it's just insane people got their hooks in, and all of this noise is going to be kicking and screaming, and a lot of pointing. It's to the point where it's literally like there's no middle ground anymore. Like if you just say like, hey man, I didn't like that, you're immediately like thrown into a side. Like it's getting to that point, which I guess is good in one way, because it can't keep on the way it is. And people, like I said, people might say like people are just using his death to like kind of push these issues. Just like, no, we wanted these issues. He got more support from these supposedly like, you know, shady accounts that are just like outcast from the scene proper than anyone else. It's literally like these communities used to be open for all, and then you tried to come in and say they were open for all, but only for the people that you like. You know, it's the same shit as everywhere else, you know? Yeah. But, you know, I could rant about this just because it's one of those, you know, I've already done my ranting. You don't need me going in circles, but it is just, it's just a terrible situation fueled by terrible people. In a just world, Leffen gets the lifetime ban. I think I've seen a few people start calling for it. Understand, I'm not of the mind that people should be banned. I'm of the mind that banning should be kept to a minimum, especially because I don't trust the community, as I just got done telling you. You know, the community that now has an active kill count. This isn't some kind of equal punishment thing. It's just in a proper community, this behavior would not be tolerated. Not in a rules way, not in a new age, we need to make this a safe place way, or anything like that. It's just a normal, average, decent people don't humor the worst that humanity has to offer for long, and Leffen fits that. You know, he's not a heel, he's not a trash talker, he is a terrible person.
Well, I guess the community is going to come up with its own way of dealing with that.
We'll see. I mean, I've been mentioning to Harrison that there are a lot of like groups that are like kind of segmented from the communities proper, and there's like parallel communities that have been popping up, and you know, they get all the slander because it's, you know, anything that like goes against the powers that be that we've all been dealing with the last couple of years, they get plastered and put in a bad light, like, oh, you're a Nazi, you're this, you're that, blah blah blah, all right, blah blah blah, you know. So it's I think that the people have kind of had enough, and I think if not a tipping point, then we're getting close to one. So, and that I hope, and I mean that everywhere, but in particular, I think the Smash Brothers community, which really can't take too many smacks because of how relatively small and how little backing they get from sponsors and stuff like that. Like, I don't think it's, you know, I don't think it's something they can really weather. So they need to start looking at this. Like I said, there's a long list of names out there. There's some prominent ones, you know.
Yeah. For your sake, I hope it gets better, and for my sake too, because I have to hear about it every week.
Yeah, I like I constantly say I want to see these scenes get better. Like there's very clear groups of people that are causing this, and it's time to stop humoring all these people. Like
Yeah.
like it's over. And I'm not just talking about those people, but also these people and those people. You know, I pretty much laid them out. It's like we got to stop humoring OG players that are really only out for themselves. We got to stop humoring people that are only in it for the power, you know, that are weak everywhere else and don't really care about community. They just want power, and all the protected classes. We got to stop humoring all these. It's just get back to what it was, or else it's gonna be a mess.
Yeah. Well, another Anthony rant in the books.
Your
Fucking,
favorite.
we gotta make a compilation of this shit because Jesus Christ, man, you just go, once you fucking get into a rhythm, dude, you just keep going. It's
Listen,
kind of impressive, actually.
I'm passionate about these topics. Like we
I
love
know.
video
No,
games and all of these
this
things
is
around
good.
it. Like, you know, but yeah, but
I don't have that rant muscle like you do, but it's kind of it's like a spectacle sometimes.
yeah.
But anywho, like in true pregame network or Boon syndication fashion, rather, that is as good a place to end it as any.
I'd say so. I'd say we're done.
Yeah, that was episode, what would you say, 49?
I believe that was episode 49. Yes.
49, okay. Episode 4. Well, actually, I have the YouTube channel. Yep, episode 49. All right, so
Huzzah.
cool. And then another Anthony rant. If you're listening, thank you for listening. And we are going to be back next week for whatever the week throws at us. So
Yes.
stay tuned.
Yep.
Stay tuned. So thank you, and see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.